Hear now these words from the prophet Isaiah. The people who walked in darkness have seen a great light. Those who lived in a land of deep darkness, on them the light has shined. You have multiplied the nation. You have increased its joy. They rejoice before you, as with joy at the harvest, as people exult when dividing plunder. For the yoke of their burden and the bar across their shoulders, the rod of their oppressor, you have broken as on the day of Midian. For all the boots of the tramping warriors and all the garments rolled in blood shall be burned as fuel for the fire. For a child has been born for us, a son given to us. Authority rests upon his shoulders, and he is named Wonderful, Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. Anyone who is even slightly familiar with George Friedrich Handel's Messiah knows those words well. In fact, if you have ever sung or played the Messiah in a performance, I probably lost you a couple minutes as you kind of sung it under your breath because you know the words and you know the tune. It's such a well-known piece of music, and it's based on one of the best-known stories in all of human history. Even folks who have never been in a church know at least part of the story that we tell tonight. At least as much as they know that it has something to do with God. There's a manger in it, and there's a star and a baby. They at least know those parts. They know that much. And it's one of the greatest family stories that we have in the Christian faith. And every year, we tell this family story. Every year at Christmas, it's like that family story that we gather together and we tell over and over again. We tell it in scripture, we tell it in song, and of course, we tell it in pageant form. We've all seen those. But just like in any family, the danger with the constant retelling of a story is that it might start to lose its punch a little bit. What was once exciting or inspiring may sometimes be a little bit pedestrian or mundane in nature. For some, perhaps the retelling of the Christmas story has turned into something akin to listening to Uncle Bill's 117th retelling of the time he met Elvis. We kind of tune it out because we've heard it so many times. But if we can, let's try to take a moment and imagine what this story meant to the people that were in it. The ones to whom the prophet Isaiah was referring. He called them the people who walk in darkness, or those that live in a land of deep darkness. He speaks of their yoke of burden, and the bar across their shoulders, the rod of their oppressors. But Isaiah just wasn't painting an abstract picture. He was reporting things as they were. The people, his people, had been calling out to God, crying out for deliverance from centuries of suffering and oppression. They had spent so much time walking in the darkness that they probably couldn't even lift their heads to even see if there was a light. Any dreams of hope or joy that they had ever had been crushed by what Isaiah referred to as the boots of the tramping warriors. Perhaps we haven't known grief and despair that has been that long or wide, but perhaps we've known grief and despair that goes that deep. It sweeps through us with such ferocity that everything in its wake is either knocked upside down or turned inside out, but we just know that they are simply changed forever. And so can you imagine from that place that I think most of us have been, can you imagine what Isaiah's words sounded like? A promise so audacious that maybe it actually could be for real? Those people who walked in darkness, they'll see a great light. The ones who live in a land of deep darkness, on them a light will shine. There is one who will come to save us, and all authority will rest upon his shoulders. We don't have to worry anymore. We don't have to be frightened anymore. We don't have to live like this anymore. This is our family story. And it's the one that we get to hear and retell every single Christmas. And we don't have to imagine what it must have been like for the people who were in it, the ones to whom the prophet Isaiah was referring, because we are in the story. It is our story. If you've been with us throughout the days and weeks of December, you know that we have spent this past month walking in the darkness. The darkness of our fears, of our worries, of our shame, of our broken hearts. But we allowed ourselves to stay in the darkness. We held ourselves there because the darkness has so many lessons that it can teach us. To believe, to say, I believe in the sun, even when it's not shining. To believe in love, even when we don't feel it. And to believe in God, even when God is silent. Because sometimes it's only when we are immersed in total darkness that we can finally see that light that we have been searching and hoping so desperately for. And tonight, we step into the light. We're stepping out of that darkness because we have seen a great light. On all of us who have lived in a land of deep darkness, the light is finally shining. Because the night of mystery and awe has arrived. Jesus is born into our world, fully human and finite in his pain and its beauty. God breaks in upon our lives yet again this night, and through our belief of that which transcends our human limitations. Tonight, God's story becomes our story in the form of a tiny infant, the Word made flesh. Tonight, we raise our voices and celebrate because we believe. We believe. Amen.